Many of us spend our lives, or at least large parts of it, wandering alone, seeking the comfort of others, but often afraid to reach out. Life teaches many lessons. Most of the ones you remember come with some kind of pain. Occasionally, however, we find ourselves in a place. Dare I call it a safe place? In our lives, there are many places that hold deeper significance, but perhaps only a handful that are safe and welcoming. These places become not just a part of you, but an essential part of who you are and what makes you, you. And perhaps you leave a bit of yourself there for others to carry forward with them. Although we may travel across the country or across the world, just as we leave a bit of ourselves in that place, in a sense, we take that place with us. Certain places create a sense of home, no matter where we are. You are safe as you walk through the door, and you are home. You are fully yourself. It's a world that embraces you and welcomes you just as you are, and helps you fully grow into yourself. The only requirement is often stepping through that door and saying hello. So as a kid, pretty much every Saturday morning, I would go with my mom to visit her parents. After my fill of Saturday morning cartoons, Mom and I would hop in the Dodge Caravan and run errands before heading to Grandma's. Grandma and Pap lived in Natrona Heights, and my mom, being an efficient woman, would strategically go to different grocery stores near my grandparents' house. One of those stores was Bilo. Next to Bilo was Value City, a sort of value department store, a city of value, if you will. There, I scored plenty of Marvel Toy Biz action figures. Great values, I might add. And next to Value City was the Highlands Mall. Highlands Mall was barely a mall, but by my standards, it was utterly epic, even though it probably had less than 10 stores. Among my favorites was J&S Pizza, which had okay pizza, and a great Pac-Man arcade machine, the table unit, Walden Books, where I purchased my first issue of Star Wars Insider before becoming a subscriber, and Superior Sports Cards. Now, Superior Sports Cards may sound like the least interesting place to a comic book geek such as myself, but ignore the name. The place was a straight-up comic book store. I spent plenty of wonderfully lost hours there. While my mom was in Bilo, I'd head over to the other stores. Most Saturdays, I'd make my rounds. First, a quick stop to the toy section of Value City. I still haven't found a Toy Biz Storm. Then to Walden's. Maybe they'll have a new Timothy Zahn Star Wars novel. And finally, an extended stay at Superior Sports Cards. I'd usually return on my own, however, sometimes my mom would come and kind of have to drag me away. She was and is a very sweet woman, and was and is very patient with me. On certain Saturdays, I'd be lost in the bargain bins of Superior Sports Cards. Those were some of the best Saturdays of my life. They'd run sales of their already cheap comics. Out front, they'd have a table full of bargain comic books, and those comic books had 3 stickers. Yellow, 75 cents, orange, 50 cents, and red, only 25 cents. And those stickers were just a pain to get off. And while I'd shop at the higher price points, I made it my goal to get as many as possible for 25 cents. However, most days I just find myself wandering the shop, looking at the normal back issues, the ones I couldn't afford, browsing toys I was just too afraid to even ask the price of, and kept slightly hidden while enjoying the conversation in the shop. I'd learn what comics I needed to read or avoid. I'd learn what movies to watch or just plain skip, and general nerd stuff to get through life as a young nerd. Like my wife today, those guys probably didn't think I was listening, but I am always listening. I cannot overstate how important that culture was and is to me. Over the past 25 years since I've been a regular customer, comic book stores have been dying off. The mid and late 1990s were particularly challenging. I personally didn't shop there at that time, and I regret that fact. It's a tough business, and for the most part, those that are in it because they love it. Everything about that time shaped me as a person, shaped me as the geeky man I am today. That time at Superior Sports Cards, I wouldn't trade for anything. That time was just as important as Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, George Lucas, and my parents. Jeff, the second Jeff of Geoffrey's Comics, put it this way. There's a reason people do not walk into our comic book shop, buy their books, and immediately walk out. There are customers that spend 4 hours just talking to other customers. Jeff Jr. talked about the people that came to his shop through the years, people that his dad impacted, and people that impacted him and his dad, People that became not just customers, but family. A comic shop isn't just a shop, but a community for a very specific and surprisingly diverse group of people. He mentioned the societal label of the comic book geek being antisocial, but wisely pointed out, maybe they weren't antisocial. Maybe they just didn't have anyone to talk with yet. These shops and other similar small businesses really need us. Visit their websites, their Facebook pages, Instagram accounts, and see if they'll sell online. As much as these shops need us, we need them. So we gotta find them. Be there for them, as they've always been there for us. One of those Saturday mornings, before my mom had to come tell me it was time to leave Superior Sports Cards, I was listening to a conversation. The guys in the shop were talking about the best Star Wars quotes. One guy was sort of asking the other, who was clearly the expert in the situation with his wiry frame and equally wiry black hair. And I distinctly remember his response for Princess Leia. "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" The guy was good. A few characters later, the Emperor came up. He hesitated, unsure. He joked that it was probably his scream when he fell down the pit. They laughed a half-hearted laugh, and after what felt like an eternity, with my heart aflutter, I broke the silence between us. I interjected. "So be it, Jedi." I did the voice and everything. They both just stared at me. I don't even know if they knew I was there until that point. I'm not sure if they thought it was a good quote or a bad one or what. But frankly, it doesn't matter. What mattered is, I fully entered into their world. The culture of the local comic shop cannot be oversold in my development as a person and as a creator. I entered that world. I did so tentatively and full of fear, but I found acceptance. Maybe your experience was different. If it was, keep trying. I was now part of a culture and a community, part of a greater world, a world that shaped me into who I am today. 3,000 miles away from Superior Sports Cards, and 30 years beyond my first steps into that world, I again find myself in places like Comic Book Hideout in Fullerton, California. There, I find myself once again home. I look around, I may be a bit older, and the people behind the counter a bit younger, but we're all together in this world. I hope to do my part to make it safe for others.